And on the line is Michael in Croydon. Hello, Michael. Thanks for ringing. Good morning.
Hello, Vanessa. Good morning.
Hi there. So,
Hi. Yeah, I'm talking about
George Floyd, yeah.
Yeah, George Floyd.
Yes.
And this is a historical moment. In America, thousands of black people have been murdered. We know that. White people know that. Black people know that. We've seen images. We've seen the pictures of the lynchings. We've seen the pictures of the beatings. We've seen the pictures of Emmett Till in 1955, a 14-year-old boy beaten to death, murdered, tortured for allegedly winking at a white woman.
Yes.
We've seen all these images. Seeing George Floyd die brought it home to everybody. We are not making this up. This is real. That a policeman could kneel on someone's neck for nearly 10 minutes with his hand in his pocket and look at the camera that's filming him so nonchalantly, as if it's nothing, as if he will have no
consequences and nothing to pay for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And what we have now is the first time in American history that an American president has spoken about this and has spoken about the murder of particularly black men. There has been, America is a country built on systemic racism. It's a ladder. Anglo-Saxons at the top, black people and Native Americans at the bottom. The people who were stolen from the most. The black people, their labor stolen, their lives stolen. The Native Americans, their country stolen. Those people at the bottom of the ladder. And in the American Constitution, 1776, it said a black person was 3/5 of a human being. So when the American police were originally slave catchers, that was their original job, to catch runaway slaves. And they evolved into the American police force. So you can see that kind of mentality when they come across a black person. It's immediate suspicion. So to see what has happened is a landmark in history.
Well, good. I mean, that's positive. I mean, the legacy of suffering, brutality, bigotry, and all manner of inhumanity to man, and the history is obviously incredibly chastening. It's very hard, I know, to say, well, all of this has been suffered and endured and meted out by one race upon another, and yet today is a cause for rejoicing, particularly when at the heart of it is a man who is dead and has lost his life in what seemingly entirely unnecessarily and for no reason. I mean, so it's very hard to spin a positive out of something so appalling, isn't it? However, his family have said that they hope this is a turning point in history. It seems to me that you're saying the same. You hope that building on all of this cruelty and pain and appalling behaviour lasting, hundreds of years, that this might mean a moment for change.
Well, I sat and watched the verdict waiting, and I waited anxiously.
Yes.
And every black person waited anxiously.
Yes.
Every white person, I believe, waited anxiously, because we all knew that this is America, and they could vote him not guilty.
Yes.
Even though we all witnessed a murder on our telephones, on our television, we still had that thought that this man could still be found not guilty.
Did you think the turning point might have been when the police chief said this is not how our police officers were trained to behave? There is no grounds at all for saying that this was the way they were shown how to restrain another individual, and that it's okay. When he came out so kind of categorically and said that, did you think that marked a key moment, or were you?
Yes. The difference now is there's more black people in these kind of positions, and the chief was a black man.
Yeah.
And so he knows what it's like to be a black man.
Yeah.
And if he was to say the opposite and stand behind his beliefs, which a lot of black officers have actually done, but he was brave to do what he did and say, no, this is just wrong. He did not follow procedure. This is not what we do. The man is a murderer. And so that is one of the differences. America's been slow to change. We didn't have black people in positions we have now. And you need people on the inside to change things. You need people to say, no, you can't do this. This is wrong. You need someone there. When it was all a closed shop, there was no one to speak for us. But now it's not a closed shop.
No. So you are hoping that this will be one of those moments that is a kind of illuminating, pivotal awareness moment that there's no turning back from. It can't be excised from the record. It can't be erased. This is a thing that's happened, and therefore there's only one way forward. Are you hoping? Are you confident that might
I'm
be the
hoping.
case?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping, and the president has said that there's going to be a law. I don't know what the law's about.
Yeah.
But we black people now have a bit more power than we had. Now, we never had any power before. Yeah. They could do what they like to us. We had no say, but we've got a bit more power now. And there's going to be people who make sure there's change now, who say, hey, wait a minute. No, this isn't going to happen anymore. We're not taking this anymore. We are human beings. Just because our skin is brown and yours is white, my blood is red, your blood is red. Mm. I can marry you and have a child. Mm. We are all humans. Mm. In 3 generations, I could become a black grandfather with a white great-grandson, fully white, because we're all human beings. Mm. And this colour nonsense has got to stop. This invention of people being different because of the colour of their skin is ridiculous.
How do you feel about it here? I mean, we've already had our listeners talking about the...
He should be ashamed of himself. Of course there's systemic racism in England. And he brings out this paper saying there's none. Of course there is. I could mention so many times I was stopped as a teenage boy pushing my bicycle, searched in shops in Oxford Street, walking into a shop.
But I read an interview with Sean Bailey at the weekend in the Sunday Times, and he said, stop and search. Yes, I've been stopped and searched, hundreds of times. It's absolutely excellent. It can be insensitively conducted, but it's very important. It's a tool towards justice, and I'm sort of in favour of it continuing, etc., etc.
Stop and search. What we need is education, proper education, a proper historical education of who everybody is, where everything starts, where it ends. Not stop and search. These black boys who they're stopping and searching know nothing about themselves, feel they're worthless. Most of them are poor. So in order to earn something, the only way they know to earn is to go out and rob, steal. I'm not condoning this. Go out and rob and steal and sell drugs. That's their way of doing business, because to them, everything is closed. I'm not condoning what I'm saying. I'm saying that's what happens. This is reality.
But is that not really extreme to say? I mean, if those who are, those who are capable or able to, knuckle under at school, and I know it's much, much harder if you come from a difficult background. Of course I do. One of my daughters is a teacher, and there are children who arrive at school hungry, and children who arrive at school terrified, and children who arrive at school in all manner of disturbed ways. I realise that absolutely and implicitly, but those who do manage to work at school and achieve will be able to do honest jobs, which in many cases will bring them tremendous satisfaction and will give them a chance to progress in society. Or do you think that every single one of them is thwarted before they've even started?
No, I don't think that. Some end up like that. Some are determined to get out of that. I'll give you one example before I leave. When I used to work in my van, one day I was parked at Cannon Street, rush hour, early morning. Yeah. And I watched the people coming out of Cannon Street station. This is in the middle of the city. London Bridge just up the road. We're in the middle of the city of London. Yeah. In 20 minutes, I counted 2 black men in a suit. In 20 minutes. And just for greater elucidation, so people know where you're coming from on this, what do you conclude from that? You just counted just 2 men wearing suits. Why? Because you think they hadn't had you think 2 black men in suits because you feel they hadn't had a chance, or you feel that they had been ruled out by society, or they had ruled themselves out, or what had happened? No,
do you think?
I spotted more than 2 black men. All the other black men I spotted had on high-vis vests or security uniforms or some kind of uniform, some kind of menial job uniform. So you could clearly see that most of them ended up in some kind of menial job, and out of the hundreds of men I saw come out of that station, only 2 had suits. And that's just an observation I made. And when I left school, I tried to become a computer operator in the early days of computers. I went to so many interviews, and my dad said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. The agency said, what's happening? Because you've got really high marks. We don't understand why you can't get a good job. I don't know. They made me sit a test again. I got the same marks, kept going to all these interviews. Eventually my sister said, Michael, do you know, whilst you're looking, there's jobs at London Transport. So I said, okay. I immediately got a job at London Transport, and I stayed there until I forgot everything I learned about computers.
Gosh, that's a horribly sad thing to say. And how do you feel about that?
Well, it was just... Well,
That's one of the most dreadful things I've heard
that.
for years. What you just said.
Sorry?
What you just said is absolutely heartrending. I stayed there until I forgot everything I'd ever known about computers.
Well, that's because computers are constantly moving.
Oh my God!
The change, phones, whatever, they constantly change, and if you don't keep up with it, you forget it. God. And that's what happened to me. I ended up on London Transport. There was a film. So we could always end up on London Transport. We can always end up at the post office. We can always end up at BT. There's always jobs there for us.
Do you feel any degree at all of optimism or faith in progress or something, reassurance? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but something that is positive out of this awful catastrophe of George. Well, you do. You're feeling a glimmering of something.
As long as, as I said, it's the first ever American president in history to acknowledge that America has been killing black people with no comeback. He's the first ever to say it. Mm. So this has got to be a change.
Well, I mean, that was a hell of an emotional call from you, Michael, and I thank you for making it, honestly. I can't imagine anyone listening to you would not have been moved by what you said. The question is, moved to what and in what direction? Thank you so much. Always a delight to hear from you, Michael in Croydon. What a call. What do you think of that? What he wanted to do, then what he ended up doing, and what he said happened next. He forgot everything he'd known about computers, and I just, there's something so devastating about that call, isn't there? That everything about it, really. Let's have some music and we can think about it. The number is 0800 731 2000.